I speak to you at the threshold of this day, before your battles demand attention, and before your confidence is tested. You are not stepping into this day alone, and victory is not something you must manufacture with your own strength. I know the concerns you carry, the challenges you anticipate, and the quiet fears you have not voiced. Listen to me now. Victory does not come from numbers, power, or preparation alone. It comes from trusting me fully. Place your confidence where it belongs. Lift your heart to me before you lift your hands to work, and you will discover that what you entrust to me is already covered. When you face the day ahead, it is natural to assess your resources, your abilities, and your preparation. You count what you have and measure what you lack. But victory is not determined by what you can assemble. It is determined by where you place your trust. Trust is not passive hope, it is active reliance. When you trust me, you choose to stand on what I can do rather than what you can control. I know how easily confidence shifts toward visible strength. Numbers feel reassuring, plans feel stabilizing, experience feels reliable. These things have value, but they are not foundations. When they become your source of confidence, fear grows alongside them because they can fail. Trusting me removes that fear because I do not fail. Victory begins before the battle starts. It begins in the heart that decides where it will rely. If you rely on yourself, pressure increases as the moment approaches. If you rely on me, peace settles even before circumstances change. This peace is not denial. It is assurance rooted in trust. I see how often you try to carry victory alone. You believe you must be strong enough, wise enough, prepared enough. This belief exhausts you. Trust shifts the weight from your shoulders to mine. You are not relieved of responsibility, but you are freed from burden. Trusting me does not mean ignoring reality. It means interpreting reality through truth rather than fear. You acknowledge obstacles without magnifying them. You recognize challenges without surrendering to them. Trust keeps perspective intact. I know how fear whispers that trusting me is risky. Fear tells you that reliance makes you vulnerable, but true vulnerability is pretending you are sufficient when you are not. Trust is not weakness. It is alignment with reality. Victory secured through trust does not always look immediate. Sometimes it unfolds through endurance rather than escape. Sometimes it manifests as strength to stand rather than removal of opposition. Victory is not always the absence of struggle. It is the presence of faithfulness. I see how trust transforms your decisions. When you trust me, you do not rush. You do not panic. You act with clarity rather than urgency. Calm choices often lead to greater victory than reactive ones. Trust also steadies your emotions. Anxiety loses its grip when trust governs the heart. Confidence becomes quiet rather than loud. You no longer need to prove anything. You simply stand. I know how comparison undermines trust. You look at others and measure your position. You wonder if you are behind, under-equipped, or overlooked. Trust removes comparison by fixing your eyes on me rather than on others. Victory through trust also reshapes your understanding of strength. Strength is not force alone. It is restraint guided by wisdom. It is patience under pressure. It is obedience when shortcuts tempt you. I see how trust deepens courage. Courage rooted in self, confidence falters when resistance grows. Courage rooted in trust remains steady because it draws from a source beyond circumstance. Trusting me also guards you from despair when outcomes delay. Delay does not equal defeat. It often prepares deeper victory. Trust allows you to wait without unraveling. I know how trusting me feels difficult when past disappointments linger. You fear hoping again. But trust is not forgetfulness. It is choosing faith despite memory. I honor that choice. Victory secured through trust also protects your integrity. You do not compromise to win. You remain faithful even when shortcuts appear effective. Integrity preserves victory beyond the moment. I see how trust influences your prayers. You pray with confidence rather than desperation. You ask with humility rather than demand. This posture aligns you with my will. Trusting me also changes how you handle setbacks. Setbacks become adjustments rather than endings. You remain teachable. You remain hopeful. I know how trust confronts pride. Pride resists dependence. Trust embraces it. This embrace does not diminish you. It strengthens you. Victory through trust also stabilizes relationships. You do not manipulate outcomes. You do not force agreement. You act honestly and allow me to work. I see how trust reshapes your expectations. You stop demanding specific outcomes and start trusting my purpose. This shift opens the door to peace. Trusting me also refines patience. You endure without resentment. You wait without bitterness. Patience becomes strength rather than delay. I know how trust guards your mind. When thoughts spiral toward fear, trust anchors them in truth. Clarity replaces confusion. Victory secured through trust does not inflate ego. It cultivates gratitude. Gratitude acknowledges source. Acknowledging source keeps you grounded. I see how trust affects leadership. Leaders who trust me lead with humility. They protect others rather than use them. This leadership endures. Trusting me also protects you from burnout. Burnout often comes from striving without surrender. Trust restores balance. I know how trust steadies you when the battle feels personal. When opposition targets your weaknesses, trust reminds you that I know you fully and stand with you still. Victory through trust also reshapes how you view loss. Loss does not define you. It teaches you where not to anchor your hope. I see how trust empowers obedience. You obey not because you are forced, but because you trust my wisdom. Trusting me also restores joy. Joy grows when fear diminishes. It does not depend on outcomes. It flows from assurance. I know how trust challenges control. Control promises safety but delivers anxiety. Trust delivers peace. Victory secured through trust also strengthens resilience. You recover faster. You stand longer. You endure more wisely. I see how trust clarifies purpose. When you trust me, your actions align with what matters most. Distractions lose power. Trusting me also protects you from envy. You celebrate others' victories without resentment. Trust assures you of your own path. I know how trust reshapes how you face opposition. You do not retaliate impulsively. You respond thoughtfully. Wisdom guides strength. Victory through trust also refines hope. Hope becomes steady rather than fragile. It does not collapse when challenged. I see how trust anchors faith during uncertainty. Faith does not require certainty to stand. It requires trust. Trusting me also brings rest. Rest is not withdrawal. It is confidence expressed through stillness. I know how trust transforms waiting into worship. Waiting becomes active alignment rather than passive frustration. Victory secured through trust does not require you to see the whole picture. It requires you to take the next step faithfully. I see how trust frees you from the need to impress. You live authentically. Authenticity strengthens peace. Trusting me also guards your heart against fear of failure. Failure does not end you. It refines you. I know how trust deepens gratitude. Gratitude grows when you recognize provision beyond effort. Victory through trust also protects you from despair when answers delay. Delay refines faith rather than destroying it. I see how trust strengthens unity. You stand together rather than competing. Trusting me also renews courage daily. Courage does not deplete when its source is eternal. I know how trust shapes endurance. Endurance rooted in trust does not collapse under pressure. Victory secured through trust is not temporary. It reaches beyond today. Trusting me keeps you steady when circumstances shift. Trusting me keeps you humble when success comes. Trusting me keeps you hopeful when challenges rise. And as you step into this day, facing tasks you must complete and battles you must engage, let trust guide your heart and anchor your confidence, knowing that victory does not rest on your strength, your numbers, or your preparation, but on your willingness to rely fully on me, to place your confidence in my name, and to walk forward with assurance that what is entrusted to me is already secured in faithfulness and power beyond your own. When you turn to me in the middle of battle, you are not speaking into uncertainty. You are speaking to one who hears before the words fully form. I am attentive to prayers that rise from hearts that trust me, especially when the pressure is real and the outcome feels heavy. Prayer is not your last resort when strength is depleted. It is your first alignment with truth before the struggle unfolds. I know how battles make you feel exposed. You sense the weight of responsibility, the fear of loss, the urgency to act. In these moments, prayer can feel fragile, almost inadequate compared to the scale of what you face. But prayer is not measured by volume or length. It is measured by trust. When you pray sincerely, you position yourself within my response. I respond to prayer not because you convince me, but because prayer aligns you with me. Alignment changes everything. When your heart aligns with my will, fear loses authority, confusion settles, and clarity begins to emerge. The battle may still be present, but you are no longer facing it alone or blindly. I know how easy it is to pray reactively in times of battle. You ask urgently, driven by fear, wanting immediate relief. I do not dismiss these prayers. I hear them. But I also invite you deeper, beyond panic, into trust. Prayer rooted in trust does not demand outcomes. It seeks guidance, strength, and alignment. I hear prayers spoken quietly just as clearly as those spoken aloud. Silence does not hide you from me. When your words fail, your heart still speaks. I understand prayers shaped by exhaustion, prayers shaped by tears, prayers shaped by uncertainty. You do not need to organize your pain for me to hear it. In battle, prayer becomes a lifeline because it shifts focus. Instead of staring at what threatens you, you lift your eyes to me. This shift does not ignore danger, it places danger in proper perspective. Perspective is often the first answer I give. I know how battles tempt you to rely solely on strategy. Strategy has its place. Preparation matters, but prayer acknowledges what strategy cannot address. It invites my intervention where your ability ends. When you pray, you are not abandoning action, you are inviting wisdom to guide it. I respond to prayer by strengthening your inner resolve. Sometimes the external situation remains unchanged, but your ability to stand within it transforms. Endurance grows. Courage stabilizes. Fear loosens. These changes are not secondary answers, they are deliverance taking shape. I know how prayer feels risky when outcomes are uncertain. You fear hoping too much. You fear disappointment. But prayer is not a gamble. It is an act of trust. Trust does not guarantee the absence of hardship. It guarantees my presence within it. I hear prayers that ask for protection, but I also hear prayers that ask for wisdom. Wisdom often protects you before danger reaches you. A decision delayed, a path avoided, a conversation approached differently. These answers may seem subtle, but they are powerful. I know how battles can isolate you. You feel misunderstood. You feel alone. Prayer reconnects you. It reminds you that you are not fighting in isolation. I am aware of every detail you carry. Nothing is hidden from me. I respond to prayer by clarifying motives. Battles expose what you truly want. They reveal attachments, fears, and desires. When you pray honestly, you allow me to refine these motives so they do not control you. Refinement is protection. I know how prayer changes how you interpret opposition. Opposition no longer feels personal in the same way. You recognize that resistance does not mean abandonment. It often confirms that what you are doing matters. I hear prayers that ask for victory, and I respond by defining victory rightly. Victory is not always defeating an enemy visibly. Sometimes it is remaining faithful under pressure. Sometimes it is preserving integrity when compromise is tempting. Sometimes it is walking away from what would harm you. I know how battle prayers often include why. Why now? Why this? Why me? These questions do not offend me. They reveal trust seeking understanding. I may not always answer why immediately, but I respond by strengthening you to endure while understanding grows. I respond to prayer by guarding your mind. In battle, thoughts become weapons. Fearful thoughts weaken resolve. Despair distorts perception. Prayer creates space for truth to interrupt these patterns. Truth restores stability. I know how prayer changes timing. You become less reactive. You pause. You listen. You wait for direction rather than rushing ahead. Waiting guided by prayer prevents unnecessary loss. I hear prayers spoken on behalf of others. When you intercede, you reflect my heart. Intercession widens perspective. It reminds you that you are part of something larger than your immediate struggle. I respond to prayer by mobilizing resources you cannot see. Influence shifts. Conversations happen. Doors open or close. These movements are not random. They are responses to alignment. I know how prayer humbles you. Humility opens space for my work. Pride resists help. Prayer invites it. This humility does not diminish you. It strengthens you. I hear prayers that include confession in the midst of battle. Confession clears interference. It removes what would block clarity. Honesty restores communication. I respond to prayer by reminding you of past faithfulness. Memory strengthens trust. When you remember how I have carried you before, courage returns. I know how prayer reframes fear. Fear thrives on isolation. Prayer restores connection. Connected hearts fear less. I hear prayers spoken even when faith feels thin. Faith does not need to be strong to be real. It needs to be honest. Honesty invites response. I respond to prayer by aligning circumstances over time. Timing matters. Rushed victory can cause greater harm than delayed resolution. Trust grows when you allow me to work fully. I know how prayer reshapes expectation. You stop demanding specific outcomes and start trusting my wisdom. This shift opens you to answers you did not anticipate. I hear prayers offered before decisions are made. These prayers invite guidance rather than damage control. Guidance protects future steps. I respond to prayer by strengthening unity. When people pray together, division weakens. Shared trust builds resilience. I know how prayer steadies you when others panic. Your calm becomes a witness. This calm is not detachment, it is trust expressed through peace. I hear prayers spoken in desperation. Desperation is not a barrier. It is often the doorway to deeper trust. I meet you there. I respond to prayer by teaching discernment. You begin to recognize what truly requires your energy and what does not. Discernment conserves strength. I know how prayer changes how you speak in battle. Words become measured. Responses become thoughtful. Silence becomes intentional. Communication becomes wiser. I hear prayers that ask for deliverance from fear rather than from circumstance. These prayers reshape you deeply. Freedom from fear often precedes freedom from struggle. I respond to prayer by adjusting perspective on loss. Loss does not mean defeat. Some losses preserve life. Some endings protect future fruit. I know how prayer sustains hope when battles extend longer than expected. Hope anchored in me does not collapse under delay. I hear prayers offered in obedience. When you pray and still act faithfully, alignment deepens. Faith grows legs. I respond to prayer by guarding your heart from bitterness. Bitterness would tie you to the battle long after it should release you. I know how prayer helps you release control. Control tightens anxiety. Release restores peace. I hear prayers that ask for strength to forgive in the midst of conflict. These prayers are powerful. Forgiveness dismantles battles others cannot see. I respond to prayer by restoring sleep. Rest returns when fear loosens. A rested mind discerns better. I know how prayer shapes courage. Courage rooted in prayer is steady, not impulsive. I hear prayers spoken without words. Groans, tears, silence. These are not missed. They are understood. I respond to prayer by reminding you of identity. You are not defined by the battle. You are mine. I know how prayer transforms waiting into trust. Waiting becomes active alignment rather than passive frustration. I hear prayers that seek my will rather than personal victory. These prayers open the widest door for response. I respond to prayer by protecting what matters most, even if lesser things are lost. I know how prayer builds resilience. Resilience grows when trust replaces fear. I hear prayers spoken repeatedly. Persistence is not doubt. It is faith refusing to disengage. I respond to prayer by strengthening your witness. How you endure speaks loudly. I know how prayer reshapes how you face opposition tomorrow. Confidence grows quietly. I hear prayers offered at the beginning of battle, not just at the breaking point. These prayers anchor you early. I respond to prayer by surrounding you with peace that does not depend on outcome. I know how prayer opens space for wisdom that strategy alone cannot provide. I hear prayers that acknowledge dependence. Dependence invites provision. I respond to prayer by guarding your future beyond this moment. I know how prayer aligns you with victory that lasts beyond the immediate struggle. And as you continue through this day, facing challenges that test your resolve and decisions that require courage, remain anchored in prayer, trusting that every sincere word spoken in faith is heard, that every moment of alignment invites my response, and that even in the midst of battle, your prayers are shaping outcomes, strengthening hearts, guiding steps, and securing victory that unfolds through trust, wisdom, and my faithful presence working on your behalf. I fight for those who rely on my name, not because they are loud, powerful, or impressive, but because they have chosen trust over fear and dependence over pride. When you place your confidence in me, you are not standing alone on a battlefield. You are standing under my authority, within my protection, and surrounded by my presence. Reliance on my name is not a phrase you repeat. It is a posture you live. Battles are not won by volume of effort alone. They are shaped by allegiance. Where you place your trust determines who fights with you. When you rely on your own strength, you fight alone. When you rely on my name, you invite my involvement. My involvement changes the nature of the battle before it changes the outcome. I know how easily reliance drifts toward what is visible. You trust what you can measure, calculate, and predict. Numbers feel safe. Preparation feels wise. Experience feels dependable. These have value, but they are not ultimate. When reliance settles there, fear grows quietly because everything visible can fail. My name cannot fail. My name represents my character, my authority, and my faithfulness. When you rely on my name, you are relying on who I am, not merely on what you want me to do. This reliance is relational, not transactional. You are not using my name to get what you want. You are resting in it because you trust me. I fight for those who rely on my name by going before them. You often imagine me stepping in only at the moment of crisis. But long before the conflict becomes visible, I am already active. I position you, I redirect you, I restrain what would overwhelm you. Much of my fighting happens quietly, outside your awareness. I know how battles feel unfair. You did not choose them. You did not provoke them. Yet here you are. Relying on my name does not mean you avoid every battle. It means you do not face them unsupported. I do not promise a life without conflict. I promise my presence within it. When you rely on my name, you stop fighting to defend your image. Image defense drains strength. You explain, justify, and react. But when I fight for you, you do not need to prove yourself. I handle what you cannot control. I protect what truly matters. I fight for you by confusing what comes against you. What intends harm loses clarity. What seeks to trap you miscalculates. What pressures you loses momentum. You may not see this happening, but you feel its effect as pressure eases and direction becomes clearer. Relying on my name also changes how you engage. You do not rush into conflict driven by emotion. You respond with wisdom. Calm replaces panic. Discernment replaces impulse. This steadiness is not passivity. It is strength under control. I know how tempting it is to rely on force when you feel threatened. Force feels decisive. But force without wisdom creates collateral damage. When you rely on my name, you allow me to shape your response, so it protects you rather than entangles you further. I fight for those who rely on me by sustaining them when the battle lasts longer than expected. Endurance is not accidental. It is supplied. When you should be exhausted, strength remains. When hope should collapse, resolve endures. This endurance is not self-generated. It flows from reliance. I know how battles test faith. You begin strong, confident that I am with you. But as time passes and answers delay, doubt creeps in. Reliance on my name is not a one-time decision. It is a daily return. Each day you choose again where your trust will rest. I fight for you by limiting what opposition can do. Not everything that threatens you is allowed full access. Boundaries are set, lines are drawn. What you fear most is often restrained without your knowledge. Relying on my name also reshapes your expectations of victory. Victory is not always public vindication. Sometimes it is private preservation. Sometimes it is integrity maintained. Sometimes it is peace retained in the midst of pressure. These victories matter deeply. I know how you long for immediate resolution, but some battles are won through process rather than moment. When you rely on my name, you trust timing as well as outcome. Timing protects you from victories that would cost you more than you realize. I fight for you by strengthening your inner life. Battles are rarely only external. Fear, shame, anger, and despair often fight hardest within. I confront these enemies directly. I restore truth where lies try to dominate. I steady your heart so inner collapse does not precede external defeat. Relying on my name also frees you from retaliation. Retaliation feels justified, but it binds you to the battle. When I fight for you, you are released from the need to strike back. Justice does not disappear. It is handled. I know how battles can make you suspicious and guarded. You trust less. You withdraw. I fight for you by restoring openness without naivety. Discernment replaces suspicion. Wisdom replaces fear. I fight for those who rely on my name by turning what was meant for harm into instruction. You learn. You grow. You become stronger without becoming hardened. Growth is a form of victory. Relying on my name also protects your future. Some battles threaten not only the present, but what lies ahead. I guard what you cannot yet see. I preserve purpose even when the present feels chaotic. I know how battles tempt you to compromise. You consider shortcuts. You lower standards. You rationalize small deviations. I fight for you by strengthening conviction. Conviction keeps you aligned even under pressure. I fight for you by surrounding you with the right support. People appear at the right time. Words come when needed. You are not as alone as you feel. These supports are part of my response. Relying on my name also shapes humility. You recognize that victory does not originate from you. Gratitude grows naturally. Gratitude protects you from pride, which would invite new battles. I know how battles can distort your perception of me. You wonder if I am distant or delayed. I fight for you by reminding you of who I am through truth, memory, and quiet assurance. Relationship is restored even in uncertainty. I fight for you by silencing accusations that rise against you. Accusations aim to weaken resolve. Truth dismantles them. When you rely on my name, accusations lose authority. Relying on my name also steadies your speech. You speak less impulsively. You choose words carefully. Silence becomes strategic. This wisdom avoids unnecessary escalation. I know how battles feel personal. You feel targeted, exposed, vulnerable. I fight for you by reminding you that your life is held within a larger purpose. This perspective lifts you above the immediacy of attack. I fight for you by giving you courage that does not depend on outcome. Courage rooted in me remains even when success is uncertain. This courage allows you to stand without collapsing. Relying on my name also protects you from despair when losses occur. Not every loss is defeat. Some losses remove what would hinder you later. I redeem what you lose. I know how battles can make you impatient. You want relief now. I fight for you by cultivating endurance that keeps you from making decisions that would harm you long term. I fight for you by aligning circumstances beyond your reach. Conversations shift. Resistance weakens. Opportunities emerge. These movements are not coincidence. They are response. Relying on my name also guards your heart from bitterness. Bitterness would tie you to the conflict. I free you so you can move forward. I know how battles test obedience. You wonder if doing what is right is worth the cost. I fight for you by honoring obedience with protection you cannot see. I fight for you by reminding you of past deliverance. Memory strengthens faith. What I have done before is evidence of what I can do again. Relying on my name also deepens worship. Worship becomes trust expressed in the midst of uncertainty. This worship confuses fear and strengthens faith. I know how battles can drain joy. Joy feels inappropriate under pressure, but joy rooted in me is not denial. It is resistance. I fight for you by restoring joy quietly, steadily. I fight for you by teaching you when to engage and when to step back. Not every battle requires confrontation. Wisdom chooses which fights matter. Relying on my name also reshapes leadership. You lead with calm rather than force. Others feel safe around you. This influence matters. I know how battles can shake identity. You begin to question who you are. I fight for you by anchoring identity in me rather than in performance or outcome. I fight for you by sustaining hope when evidence seems thin. Hope rooted in me does not collapse under pressure. Relying on my name also protects your conscience. You remain honest. You remain whole. Wholeness is victory. I know how battles can exhaust you physically and emotionally. I fight for you by restoring rest. Rest strengthens discernment. I fight for you by reminding you that you are not fighting for acceptance. You are accepted. This removes pressure. Relying on my name also frees you from fear of failure. Failure does not define you. It teaches you. I know how battles can make you reactive. I fight for you by restoring intentionality. You act with purpose. I fight for you by guarding what you cannot defend. I cover vulnerabilities. I protect weaknesses. Relying on my name also brings peace that does not depend on resolution. Peace stands even while conflict remains. I know how battles feel relentless. I fight for you by giving you shelter between waves. I fight for you because you belong to me. I fight for you because my name carries authority. I fight for you because reliance invites response. And as you step into this day, facing challenges that test trust and situations that demand courage, continue to rely on my name rather than on your own strength, allowing me to go before you, stand with you, and work beyond you, confident that the battles you face are not yours alone to fight, but are held within my authority, guided by my wisdom, and secured by my faithfulness as you walk forward trusting that I am actively fighting for you in ways seen and unseen. Shaping victory that honors truth, preserves your heart, and carries you safely through what stands before you.